Hi there. My name is Rupert Watson. I'm from Jigsaw24. I work in the M&E side of the business, and we're here today with the gentleman from Fonn Group, Stena Soreda, which I hope I've pronounced correctly, and Christian Kim Erkeland. They both of them are representatives of an incredibly clever bit of software, which they're going to tell you more about in a bit. But we just wanted to introduce you to how you can work within Adobe Premiere, which is a fantastic piece of software in and of itself, but has got a really nice integration tool set, which has allowed these guys to do some amazing things with it. And we wanted, as they're a relatively new kid on the block, as it were, from a business point of view, to give you guys a chance to look at what they've got and how it works, and to appreciate what it could do for you in terms of maximizing your efficiency and sort of supercharging your workflows. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Stena, who will give you an overview of what's available from them, and then in due course what we're going to do is produce some smaller, shorter videos which cover specifics of the software in deeper detail. Anyway, without further ado, over to you, Stena.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so our company name is Mjol, and we have only one product. It's called Mimir, and this is basically a software as a service running MAM and PAM functionality in the cloud. And it's quite easy to get going in a pure cloud environment, but we also have on-premise infrastructure support so that you can do a full hybrid cloud setup, especially for broadcasters and production companies that have a lot of content flowing through the daily systems. It's not, of course, cost efficient to send all the broadcast material up to the cloud for processing and so on. And we do utilize quite a bit of AI technology to do automatic metadata extraction, such as the usual speech-to-text, translation, face detection, object detection, and so on, to make big archives easier to search in. And then we have, first of all, a good search experience that runs in a browser. And then we have integrations such as our Adobe Premiere Pro panel, which makes all of this functionality available inside Adobe Premiere Pro. And of course, the system takes care of all the media management and transfers of files and all the logistics of how to work with media. And the users can sit either on premise or be running the system from anywhere and have access to the entire archive or production content sitting either in cloud storage or on-premise servers.
And Stena, there's often a question, I think, when we show it to people about where and if you need to kind of use your own storage, or whether you guys have to kind of provide the storage. So what's the answer to that in terms of, if I've already got a big S3 bucket or a Glacier instance where I've got my archive already, how would that work?
We don't depend or expect on people moving their content into our system. So it's quite easy for us to connect to existing storage or even MAM or PAM systems with existing metadata, where we can index the content in place. So we only need read access to your bucket if you have your content in a bucket already. And then we can index it from there, and avoiding creating copies of the media, obviously. We're just referencing it where it sits.
And if I have a big kind of archive on premise as well, you can read that and proxy it and send it up to the cloud, but leave the high res on premise for me to reconnect to later.
Yeah, that's possible too. So that would require some on-premise software from us running, but that runs quite easily by mounting the storage as read-only on our servers that we can deploy in a Docker container. We can index on-premise content, and again leave the content on-premise if it's a big archive and it's too costly to bring it up to the cloud. And we can expose the high-res to end users sitting in home office or remote destinations or in a multi-site environment by using an S3 gateway, so that you can still leave the content where it lives normally. Or you can choose to bring up a copy in the cloud for instance, Glacier storage for long-term backup.
Right, but the punchline is there's very little egress costs to what we're about to see. So there's no need to fear the egress, as so many people do.
Right. Yeah. No, there's a lot of trade-offs between all these different architectures, or where you place the content. But we are flexible so that you can optimize for cost and speed when it comes to media storage.
Brilliant.
So I can start by sharing my screen. So let me just do that. So now you can see my screen, and I'm running now Mimir in a web browser, and I'm logged on to our demo account, which has various types of content. Mimir can store videos as well as pictures and audio files. Those we can process and index using these AI services that I mentioned. But you can also store any other type of content in the system. So we have people using it also for the project management. For instance, Adobe Premiere Pro project files can be stored in the system. And maybe the first thing to do is just to show a couple of searches. We have a Google-like search on the top here. So if I search, for instance, for coronavirus, sorry for the boring topic, but it is a hot topic still, unfortunately. Then I see a lot of different search hits in my timeline here. And on the top, I see a timeline showing dates and the hits I get in different dates. So if I, for instance, zoom into these months in the beginning of 2000, we will see then only hits from that time period. And each line in my search result list here is one item. So these are typically video items, and the icons that you see on the right side, those are search hits within the video. So you can see the poster frame of the video clip here, and then when I click on this icon, it basically queues up my player to show the preview of the point in time when she says the word coronavirus. We will then get lots of different hits in the spoken word coronavirus, and we also get some indications here of translated content.
Coronavirus 11,000 पार कर.
So in this case, the original language
की संख्या पहुंची 19
is in Hindi. So if I go into this one, we can take a look at the transcript. So here we see the spoken words in Hindi, and then by automatically translating that to English in my setup here, we also get search hits. We can see we have 2 search hits in the translation from the original language. So it basically allows you to index also foreign content, foreign language content, and then easily search and find stuff in it. Maybe I can also show you some object detections that we can do. So in this one, we have different types of objects listed. So there's money detected. So this is, we have gold. And these are all searchable terms in our system. So if you're searching specifically for pictures of money or pictures of gold, you will be able to use this information.
But all of that information has been derived by an artificial intelligence, not by a human. So far, all of the information you've got is not someone putting it in by hand.
Correct. Yeah, which is a very important point. So we do have, of course, a full metadata system where you can have explicit or manual or existing metadata entered by users, but all the metadata that I've been using so far has been produced using AI services. And another type of AI service that we can use is face detection. So if I'm, for instance, working on the let's do Fiona Hill and the impeachment hearings. And if I open up one of these items, these are pretty long, and I'm not going to say boring, but they are very long, these clips, and they are talking a lot about different things. So the transcript is huge. So the ability to index and find the different things they are talking about is, of course, very useful. But we also do face detection. So I can see the different persons that occur in the video. And if I click on a person, so I search for Fiona, and because of that, she is highlighted here in the timeline. So I can see when she is active or her face is in the video. So I can highlight multiple people. So I can see that, for instance, Adam Schiff is talking here at the end, and then jump to that area of the video quite easily. And these timed things are possible to combine. So if I wanted to have specific people talking about specific things, I can do very narrow searches, and I have this advanced menu where I can search for specific people and what they are saying and different objects. So if I search, for instance, for, let's do the previous president talking about fake news, then when I search, those two will be used as filters. And I will then get, for instance, this one here when he's in the picture,
fake news,
talking about fake news. But I will also get some other hits. For instance, this one has the word
fake news
being said by someone who is not Donald Trump, but he's in the video. That's why I got that hit here as well. But we do have the ability to combine these filters so that they should overlap in time. So by clicking this checkbox here, I will only see the search hits when his face is actually detected and the word fake news is being said.
Fake news.
So there's a lot of search functionality in the system. I could continue for probably an hour talking only about search. For instance, we have GPS coordinates for content that has geo positions in them, so that I can zoom into an area and see the contents or search hits in a specific area. So I can search for, let's do something with snow in Norway, and I should be able to find a lot of clips that have been tagged by having snow in them, and so on. So as a search tool for journalists, this is a nice way for them to find content. And maybe I forgot to say that, but our target user are journalists and video editors that work in media production. So our typical customers are broadcasters and production companies mostly, using the system to index content and to manage the media workflows in editing and in media preparation.
So Stena, how do we move? So how do we see this in Premiere? How does your integration in Premiere look?
Let me jump over to Adobe Premiere. So the Mimir functionality exists as an extension. So, and you'll find this on the Adobe Marketplace. Search for Mimir and you can install it very easily.
Is it free or does it cost something to add it into Premiere?
That's free, yeah. So you just need an account of Mimir and you have access to all this functionality within the Adobe Premiere environment.
Cool. So potentially you could subscribe to Mimir, have a license, and have access to all of this functionality within Premiere for no additional cost.
Yes, and it is possible to use it in a pure cloud environment, so you don't need any on-premise infrastructures. So having all the content stored in your Mimir account is possible, and then you can invite other users to your account as part of your team, so that you can set up a team production with many others that you collaborate with, where everybody sees the same content.
Okay, so if I've got a team of a number of editors working around the world, you've got the primary assets, which might be on premise. They might be in a Glacier bucket for cost reasons, but ultimately you've got an S3 bucket into which you've put the proxies under the control of the Mimir and Kelda kind of control system, and now everybody anywhere can have access to them to edit and create in Premiere. Is that right?
Yeah. In the simplest case, you can do all of that with no on-premise infrastructure. But if you have a team, let's say you have 5 or 10 editors sitting in the same office, then it may make sense to create or set up a shared NAS as an edit storage, so that they can, so you avoid the download cost for each user. They will basically sharing the same cache. And if a lot of the content arrives or is ingested on that location, then you avoid the download altogether, so that all the content stays locally. So I can see my folders here, and right now I'm in high-res mode because I'm on premise with access to my local storage. But I can configure my panel to work in proxy mode, which is also a huge, very important aspect of this. So when working with broadcast formats, you know that the files, they get really big, and that is not necessary to do normal news cutting or news editing or even higher end editing. You can do a lot in proxy, and we do produce proxy files from all the broadcast and high-end formats. You can choose the quality. So typically people edit in full high definition resolution in 5 or 6 megabit, and it's plenty to get a good experience. So just to show you some examples, if I navigate now into my my folder structure, let's see, I have some film content here, and if I'm looking for something specific, let's say I'm looking for someone saying, I know that there was an actor saying if he doesn't want it, I can search for that sentence or part of a sentence, and I'll get a bunch of hits in the content here. So these are different takes, different scenes.
Wanted.
And
Wanted.
I can preview the sentence by just clicking on these
Wanted up.
inside Premiere before downloading the asset. And if I want to have it, I can just download the full thing as a proxy, and then the panel itself will get it from where it's stored. And since I'm in proxy mode, it's now just downloading the proxy from the cloud. So it takes a second to get hold of it, and I can use this now in my sequence and work with it. And the proxy that is here is in full HD quality.
So to be clear, you're streaming it when you're kind of previewing it or searching for it, but then when you want to edit with it, you've selected it, you just pull the proxy down locally to your laptop or whatever you're working on.
That's correct, yes. So after you, for instance, if I'm working on this project, I can just download the whole thing as a folder, and it brings down all the proxies to my editing machine, which could be a laptop or anything.
If I'm working on a project that I know I want all the media, I simply do it bulk. If I'm working on a massive archive and I don't know what I want yet, I can look for and preview stuff and then pull it down kind of clip by clip.
Exactly, yeah. So here, when I go into this one, I can see the different takes he makes.
If he doesn't want it, he doesn't have to take it.
And I can also select it based on the text. So if I do text marking here, you can see it marks the in and out point, and I can create subclips by importing only the selected text.
Do that again, Senna. So when you're selecting the text, I'm looking at just below the player, there's the edit points, the in and out points are moving according to where you are in the text. That's cool.
Correct, yeah. So I can just mark the sentence I want to have, and it creates a subclip, which it adds to my Premiere project here. And then let me just sort that like this. Yeah, so now I have from the word if to the word it as a subclip that I can just drag in straight like that.
And you can do that, and that's just by selecting the text in the transcript. You don't need to kind of do it in the video. That's cool.
Yeah, you can also do that with voiceover. So if I search for, let's do, I think I have some WAV files here. And these are probably spoken words. I'm not exactly sure, to be honest. So yeah, not.
So this is Foley Effects Scene 8.
Okay, I'm just gonna use this one still. So I can use this for pure audio files as well and get the same experience, and then import it as a subclip based on the voiceover text, so that I can bring it in, and it brings in the files here. And then again, I drag it in as a audio clip to my little edit here as
That's cool. So if you were working on a documentary or something and you needed transcripts of the material that's been shot for the producer to work with, or whoever is working in a text-based world, as a lot of producers tend to, how does one achieve that? Is that easy to do with the AIs?
What do you mean? You mean audio files when you have longer transcripts?
If I've got an interview with someone and I just want to look at it as a text file because I'm a producer, I'm reading the interview. I'm looking for the good bits in terms of the interview text.
I understand. So if I go back to let's do Fiona Hill again, because I know that's a longer clip, and it's not in this area. Let me go up here. Because that's not it's a longer one, and you can work with Mimir to produce either subtitles as captions, so you can have different types of chunking on these clips. And if I go into a long one, so this is an hour and 20 minutes, if I check out the subtitles to this one, I can import this clip, and I can also import the translated subtitles.
So the AI that you've got assigned has just gone off and effectively turned that clip into text for you to read.
Yes, that's correct. And you can see there is a subtitle created and shown here. I can do modifications. So if I see a spelling mistake, and of course there will be when you use automation, but I can change the words here and change it to something else. Something like that, and you will see that subtitles are updating here. And then right now I'm looking at the paragraph view, which is more like a dialogue based presentation of it, like you said. I can also change to show the subtitle view itself, and then the system will rearrange it according to some rules. And we have this rules engine that allows me to tune the transcript or the subtitles. So right now it's set to do 8 words per subtitle queue, and I can increase that. If this is for TV, you want multiple lines and so on, you can increase it so that you have longer subtitles. We can insert line breaks automatically so that we produce the line breaks for Premiere automatically, like this. That was maybe a little bit too few characters. And we break on punctuation so that you get a natural flow. And then when I'm happy with this transcript with the subtitles, I can basically import it as a subtitle file. So now it downloads it from the cloud, and I end up with a captions object that I can bring in to Premiere, and you can see the captions shown
and you
here.
can do that to rushes and to the sequence. So you would potentially run the transcript on your rushes so you know what they're saying if it's in a foreign language, or even if it's in English, you've got something for the producer to read rather than watch. But then when you've edited your timeline, you can submit the timeline back to the AI to get a transcript and a subtitle file for the finished timeline. Is that right?
I can do that as well, yeah. And so let's say I'm finished now with my piece, and this sequence I can render it locally. If you're cutting for social media, you want fast turnaround, you just want to render it. You can even render it in proxy because it's good enough quality to go to move it to YouTube. But if this is a broadcast environment, we also support rendering centrally. So if I go back to my folder, I can take my existing sequence and I click this export sequence, which will create a sequence, and then I will do a new clip edited, new edit. And I can check this central render checkbox, which means it will actually not be rendered on my local machine, because if so, I would need to get hold of all the high-res material and transfer it to my editing machine. And we could pretend I'm in my home office, or I'm sitting in a coffee shop editing on my laptop, and I don't want to move all the high-res to my laptop and then render and then upload the result back, which is perfectly possible. But we have this central management of Adobe Media Encoders. So if I click this central render, and here I can choose the things you asked about. I can choose to transcribe this one if I want to do face detections and so on. So I can enable these things. I can choose what language to run, and here effectively I'm choosing also which provider. So we're not an AI company, as you know. We integrate all kinds of AI services, and then our customers can choose what speech to text provider to use per language. So let's go with English and Speechmatics in this case. And now when I upload the sequence, it basically just takes my current sequence, which is very small, and upload that back to the Mimir backend that runs in the cloud.
Okay, so to make sure I've understood that, you've got the camera person is back at base who's gone off and shot an interview. They've brought that into the business, copied it to effectively a NAS in the on premise in your news bureau. You're sitting in a coffee shop. You would see the proxies of that interview appear to you. You can edit that interview, and then, as you've just done there, submit the edits you've made in proxy form on your laptop in the coffee shop, which will then be effectively conformed back at base against the camera original files, and then be available to the news bureau to play out from the local storage with the high-res media.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you can transcribe it and subtitle it and do all sorts of metadata enrichment that's useful for the business later when they're looking for it in the archive.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So for high-end productions, people use it as a PAM system, so that the content arrives on premise, we pick it up and make it available. Editors can work from anywhere, and then when producing the content, it is being rendered close to the high-res, so that it's effectively very quick to be available on site where it's needed to be sent over to a playout server in a TV studio.
Nice. So just on the transcript, one last thing to say. If I've got a producer working with me and they're in a different coffee shop, and they're, as I say, my background's documentary editing, and I'm used to producers who, like I say, read the transcripts and so on. If they want to make selections based on the transcript and pass them to me as an editor to put together as a sync assembly or something like that, is that a straightforward process for them if they're working in the transcript view in Premiere? And making selections, can they kind of create clips that go into a collection that I can then pick up as an editor and kind of start editing with?
Yeah, we actually have we have a feature called virtual clips. So if I'm working in a web browser, so let's say I don't have access to a full editing.
So the producer
station.
doesn't need to have Premiere. They don't need to know how to use Premiere. They just need a web browser to.
Correct. Yeah. So I can basically go in and yeah, let's pick some pieces from one of these. Let me find a suitable clip. Let me go back to.
So again, while you're doing that, in the scenario we described earlier, you've got the news bureau, the cameraman's been out, interviewed the person, brought it back, landed it on the local storage in the news bureau, and it's been proxied and transcribed for the producer to review in their coffee shop or in their home at their kitchen table or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so if I just want to do shot selection, I can do some cutting. I can mark an in and out point in this video, and then I can save this as a virtual clip. So I can basically store it as a new item just based on my current selection, so that you can collect a bunch of sub clips which cost nothing to produce, and we just bring them into a folder, and then an editor can then later just drag them into their editing sequence.
I can see those in Premiere, can I? So
yeah,
great. I go to the same project, exactly the same thing as the producer's in the web browser, but I'm in Premiere in my panel, and I can see what they've selected as interesting in that transcript. That's too.
Yeah, no, that's correct. And now actually, if we look at this one, this is the one that I just sent from my editing station. That has been picked up now by my central render infrastructure, which is now, the high-res is already done. So for broadcast workflows, this would be available for playout right now. And now it's transcoding and moving the proxy only up to the cloud, so that we still can keep the rendered high-res local only. And one other thing that I'd like to show you is, when I look at this item, I can go to this relations tab, and we keep track of what source media has been used to create the sequence, so that you have the full genealogy of what content has been used to produce this one. And also I can go the other way. If I click into this source clip here, I can see where it has been used. This one has been used in this new edit. So we use that both for keeping track of what flows where and what has been used to create an item, but also for media tracking or rights management, so that we can make sure that content that is owned by someone else, or you have a license to use it, is not used more than it should. So we present a warning to the user if they try to import something in Premiere that is connected to a license agreement or something like that.
In terms of, so when you talk about the available artificial intelligence engines, how do you choose the engine? What is the sort of process by which you determine which ones are being consumed, and how do you pay for them? Who do you have to subscribe and then kind of make them available to yourself? What's the process for doing that?
So on my account, I'm the administrator of my own account. So our customers who would have a designated administrator or one or more, and they can go in and choose on behalf of all their users what type of AI services they should have access to. So here's the list of languages that I have enabled for my account, so you can see the different languages. So if I go in and I can add a new language, and when I do, I can, for instance, for English here, I can choose between Amazon, Google, IBM, Microsoft, and the ones that support English. So you basically set up a list of languages that will be available for the users to use, and then it will be processed using that service provider. And you also asked about the costs. So we basically provide a summary on the billing page here. So here is what I have consumed this month. So if I go into, for instance, the speech to text or the let's do transcription.
So this is an up-to-the-minute estimation, or no, more than an estimation. It's a bill view that as a business owner you can check and see what exactly the process of doing all of this is costing you month by month.
Exactly, yeah. So it's this is the actual bill so far this month for my demo account, and this is the bill that we send to our customers. So they don't need to have an agreement with Microsoft and Amazon and all the different providers directly.
So you deal with all of that at the back end, and you provide a unified interface for them to choose which one they want to use and pay for which one they use. What if I've got I've got staff that I'm not entirely sure that I want to be able to choose any AI and incur any cost? Is there any way of preventing people kind of going rogue?
Yeah, exactly. Let me show you that as well. So we have the users are organized in groups. So if I have, for instance, a standard user, I can choose what type of services that they should have the ability to trigger, because these are incurring cost. So if I don't want them to run person face detections and these are the most expensive ones, I can simply put the users in a group that do not have that capability.
Okay, so only the kind of the supervisor or someone trusted can create, can ask the system to look for people or whatever. I mean, that's an interesting thing. So with face detection, how do you do that in Premiere? If you've got a documentary or a show or news report, whatever, and you've obviously ingested it, and you've missed the opportunity to run it through the AI, is there any way of kind of resubmitting or re-asking it to the AI to run through and tell you who people are? Or if you already, or if you find out, I guess, if you find out who someone is, can you tell the system, retrospectively? Would you have to then resubmit it to the AI now you found out who that person is?
Right. That it used to be like that, because the typical face detection systems that we are using, they need to reprocess. You need to pre-register the people, and if you forgot to register some people, then you need to rerun the analysis, which costs money. But we actually have recently released a function that takes care of that. So if I go into this one here and look at the metadata here, if I go to the where is it? Oh, sorry. Let me find another one. I didn't run it for this one. So let me go to this one here and just look at some of these things in here. So if I take one of these items here and let's do one with the face in, for instance, this one here. Then if I go to persons on this one, this actually has happened exactly that way. The whole production here it's hundreds of clips, and I didn't know the names of them beforehand, but we have a mechanism in our analysis. When I trigger a face detection, I can choose to auto register unrecognized faces. They then become person objects that are unnamed in our system. So
it'll keep track of them, but it doesn't know who they are yet.
Exactly. So if I go into this one here, and if I click on that person object, I will see that he has 42 appearances in different clips in this, and I can jump to it and see all of that. I can also see if they're similar persons, because sometimes when you use these automatic things, you will get duplicates of persons. So maybe you will get two different registrations. For instance, this one, it's a very different picture and it is actually the same person. So I can merge that person so that I only have one person pointing to all the references of the detected face, like that.
You can do that at any time, and the system's clever enough to kind of take account of any changes or updates that you provide it with at any point in the process.
Exactly. Yeah. So and I can also go in now in after the fact and say this person is actually, let's say he was called Rupert, and then when I search then later, and I can do that in here. If I then search for person, and I have a shorthand syntax, person Rupert, it will now show me face detections of that person. So all the different appearances of him are now labeled as Rupert. So we can see he's here. Yep.
So I've got some colleagues who don't run Premiere, they run After Effects and Photoshop, and they're very jealous of the functionality you're showing me here. Is there good news for them or not?
We actually, that is something we released recently. So if I open Photoshop or After Effects, we actually have the Mimir Panel working as an extension for those applications as well.
I didn't know there was a panel in Photoshop. How do you do it?
Very similar to the Premiere workflow. So it installs as an extension, and we are able to then bring it up here. Let me create, I'm not going to paint a pretty picture or anything, but let me just create a new project. And then if I go to Window and Extensions, I have my Mimir Panel available. So I can do exactly the same thing, bring in content from my Mimir system. And if I search for, I don't know if I have anything in, I can just do a PNG, but we support raw formats and everything. And I can basically just import it the same way. And it brings it in and adds it as a layer or as a file in my current project. So here we go. So that's the picture. So it works the same way. We are also actually soon registering it for Adobe Audition as well for audio processing, which works the same way.
That's really clever. So you can have After Effects and Photoshop users and Premiere all working effectively in the same asset management system, all within the kind of context of their Creative Cloud applications. So no need to leave. So you get all the benefits, but you stay right there working. And so you presumably, if you're round tripping between After Effects and Premiere, that's fine. It's referencing the same proxy media, so there's no kinks there. So you've got the full kind of famous round trip process between between Premiere and After Effects.
Yeah, that is handled well by Adobe.
Then when you check that back into the bureau where the primary files are, that's pretty seamless as well.
There currently the Photoshop integration allows us to bring content in. If you're bringing content,
to be honest, Photoshop's kind of blown my mind, but I'm just thinking about After Effects and Premiere. If I've got an After Effects comp that I'm referencing in a Premiere timeline, and that's all working nicely, in my proxy world. When I do what you did earlier, where you hit the render button and you tell it to render back at base, because that's where the primary media is resident on the NAS that's on premise, that presumably is totally seamless. It'll recreate to everything you've done so far in proxy format, in online format, and it'll render the After Effects comp down into the images that are in the comp into the final process, the final timeline.
Right. Yeah.
Without any further interaction.
All of that is handled very well by Adobe. And one more thing that I maybe should show you in here, if I have a project open now, if I go to this tab inside our panel, I have the current status of my proxy files, and I can also, if I want to, download the high-res files. So if I wanted to do some color grading or something on this clip here, I can grab it in high-res, and because Premiere supports
so if you're remote, but you want to get the primary file for that particular clip because it's critical, you see the actual file, even though you're sitting in a kind of remote location, you can have it. Is the reverse true? Can you, if you shoot stuff on location and you're working, if I'm in a hotel and I go off and shoot an interview, but the primary stuff is all back at base, can I combine the two footages?
You can mix and match, yes. So if I bring in, let's say I wanted to have, let me find a picture. Let's see here. If I have a local picture, let me take this one here. I can just drop it in here, or I can just drop it into my bin, and then if I use it in my sequence, then Premiere will have a reference to that from the sequence, and when I export this timeline, the sequence, the Mimir panel will analyze the sequence for what media is only available locally, that is not managed centrally, and then I can basically just say yes, upload the sequence and one file. So it takes care of it. We analyze what files are missing and we'll upload that. And that upload can either go directly to our cloud environment or the customer's cloud environment. So if you have an on-premise if you have your own bucket in the cloud, it can go there. Or if you have an on-premise infrastructure, we can upload the file directly to the on-premise infrastructure via an S3 gateway, so that you don't need to transport it via a cloud that costs money.
Okay, but fundamentally, you've got the flexibility to create and consume media at both ends, as it were. So you can shoot locally, consume remotely, or you can shoot remotely and kind of consume and consume remotely. I've got myself confused there as well.
Yeah.
You can edit with material from both locations, and it will cleverly combine the two in whichever direction they need to travel. And one question actually, so if I've got material in Glacier, and I need to bring it back, clearly that would incur a cost or time penalty. Is there any mitigation? Have you got kind of tools that allow me to tell where, or obviously I don't really care where the material is. I found it in proxy form. I want to use it. If it's in Glacier, is there any kind of warning or ability to tell what's going to happen if I do need to restore it?
Right. Yeah. So Mimir has support for Glacier, and some content will be sitting in Glacier depending on your rules. So you set up how many days it should stay online, and then we will control the storage class of the file. So even if it's your own bucket, we can bring it to Glacier. In that case, right now.
So Mimir will control movement of media between layers. So I can have stuff in S3 and Glacier or whatever, and Mimir has the ability to move data from one place to another as part of its functionality.
Yeah, and it does that in a way where you can actually choose how to bring it in. So if I go to an item here that it is in Glacier, I can see that on this icon here. So this would normally be the download high-res icon, which would allow me to go and get the high-res file. This one is a big file, and it has been in the system for a while. So if I click this button now, I get into this restore media dialog box where I can choose how to restore it. So if it's urgent, I'll use Express. If it's not, I can do the slow version. And it also shows you the cost of actually restoring it. So again, we are not owning the content. We just control the storage class of the file in the customer's bucket.
And how up to date are those prices? I mean, typically, are they years old now, or how often
no, we
keep track of this sort of thing? Because obviously the pricing's great, but only if it's correct and the latest.
We keep all of that up to date whenever there's a change. We need to update it in our system. Yeah,
that's really clever. I think I've got one last question, which is I've got a number of customers who do live broadcast or live editing, so they want to edit while recording. So is there any functionality that you've got that allows me to do live ingest? Obviously I'd need to be on premise, I presume, to do that.
Yes, we are working on that. So it's not an officially supported feature yet, but we are soon releasing support for live. And the first version of that will be growing MXF files on premise. So if you have an ingest server that places a growing MXF on a shared storage, we are able to pick it up, and we are chunking it and producing proxy files or a proxy file and proxy segments. And you will actually be able to see that. I have this new streaming or live category. So all the ongoing recordings will be shown in a specific section in the Mimir UI. And you will be able to use Adobe Premiere to edit on it. So we are able to transport a growing file into Premiere with no extra plugins installed, just using our panel. And if you scrub to the end of it, you will basically be about 10 seconds behind live. So you can use it to cut press conference or breaking news content, or I don't know, soccer highlights from a game while it's ongoing.
It's recording. That's cool. But do you need to be, you'd have to be at the news bureau to do that, or can you be remote from the news bureau to effectively do editing on, while it's still recording?
The proxy workflow works from any place, so you can have users sitting anywhere globally as long as they have the panel installed. They can log on to their account and work in proxy on the growing items. Then when they use the segments in a sequence, and we would rely on the central conform functionality to render it out using an Adobe Media Encoder sitting back home where the high-res is recorded. So the conform will happen in full quality. The edit happens in proxy. You can, of course, again, export a local version of it if you are in a hurry and you are doing this for social media. You can, of course, render locally on your Premiere client. But if you are working in broadcast, we need to have this conformed centrally where the high-res is ingested.
Tidy. So if you had everything in the cloud, you could potentially be ingesting media into your Mimir environment in a cloud instance and have people around the place editing, and ultimately put it all back together inside of a cloud, or you could have it on premise. So it's flexible, entirely kind of up how you want.
No, exactly. You can pick and choose, and the first release of this will be the on-premise version, which is focused on broadcast workflows. But we are also adding support for creating an RTMP stream recording. So if you have, I don't know, live view or some cameras out there.
There's AWS Link. They've got this little throwdown box which will take baseband up as an RTMP stream into AWS. It's kind of one of the workflows I imagine you could use. So yes, there's increasing demand, isn't there, for bringing video into the kind of cloud infrastructure and consuming and editing it there.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you, Stella. That's fantastic. I appreciate it. We're going to call a halt there, I think, and ultimately there's an awful lot in this system which we're going to probably do separate individual videos to kind of cover off specifics. So if anybody's got any questions that they'd like to ask, anything they'd like to see in more detail at a later date, it would be great to kind of talk about that later on in the chat. But for now, thank you very much, Stella, and that was fantastic. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.